Well, good evening, you beautiful New Zealanders. We're just about to have another video, and I can't wait to get into this one. We're doing a series on the Treaty for Dummies, and if you're somebody who's not a dummy and you know a lot about the treaty, then don't be offended by that, because there's a lot of people who are writing to us asking it to be dumbed down and made very simple because they know absolutely nothing. So please don't be offended if you're someone who considers yourself not to be a dummy. And the dummies don't mind being called dummies because they're saying, mate, make it like dummies for us, because we really want to know and we want it nice and simple. So that's what we're doing. Article 1 of the treaty, part 4. This is what we're going to be doing tonight. Did Maori cede sovereignty or not? And here's Article 1. The chiefs of the Confederation of United Tribes and the other chiefs who have not joined the Confederation cede to the Queen of England forever the entire sovereignty of their country. Now, we've been into extensively the meaning of the chiefs of the Confederation of United Tribes, and we've done that in a previous video. So watch the other videos if you want to know all about that. Maori radicals today say that Maori did not cede sovereignty in 1840. The British say they did. So who is right? Both sides have to prove their case. Most important of all, what are the implications for all New Zealanders if Maori did not cede sovereignty? What are the implications for Maori if they did cede sovereignty? So let's examine both scenarios and see who is right here. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, then the resources of our country belong to Maori. That is, the fisheries, the forests, the minerals, the rivers, lakes, mountains, the coastline, and so on. Absolutely everything belongs to Maori if they did not cede sovereignty. Maori have a right to be in control of New Zealand, to rule and reign, if Maori did not cede sovereignty. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, then all non-Maori are guests here or overstayers. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, then tribal rule must triumph. Democracy was a system of government introduced by the British, so it can be dispensed with, no problem at all. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, then before the law, Maori are not equal with all other citizens, they are superior. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, as the owners of New Zealand, they have rightfully special rights and privileges not afforded to any other racial group. That's totally fair enough. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, we could say that this country was stolen from Maori by the British, and the British must give it back. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, then the Maori language must become the main language of the country. You see, so I hope you can see why Article 1 of the treaty and the issue of sovereignty is of crucial importance. It makes absolutely a massive difference to our country today and the future of our country if Maori did not cede sovereignty. Changes everything. Right now, 2024, Maori are acting like they did not cede sovereignty. By increment, they are inching towards the realization of 1 to 8 above, which I've just read. So if Maori did not cede sovereignty, the implications for all New Zealanders are momentous, and that's not a word I'd use lightly. If Maori ceded sovereignty, they did cede sovereignty, then everything changes. The resources of our country belong to all New Zealanders. The fisheries, the forests, the minerals, the rivers, the lakes, the mountains, the coastline, and so on. If Maori ceded sovereignty, then they have no right to be in control of New Zealand, to rule and reign in our nation. If Maori ceded sovereignty, they have no right to set up a parallel government. Maori ceded sovereignty, then they are equal before the law with all the other 159 cultures who live in New Zealand. They are definitely not a special race of people who must be treated differently. If Maori ceded sovereignty, then Maori, like everyone else, must abide by democratic principles, since democracy was the form of government planned by the British from 1840 onwards. You see, if Maori ceded sovereignty, they must be treated the same as everyone else, with no exceptions. If Maori ceded sovereignty, then they are not entitled to any special rights and privileges. If Maori ceded sovereignty, we could say that this country, in every respect, was handed over to the British legally to be managed by them through democratic elections. If Maori ceded sovereignty, English will be the main language of the country. If Maori want to grow their culture and language, they can do so on their maraes and in their homes, just like all the other 159 cultures do, and do so successfully. The idea of Maori wards, treaty partnership, customary rights, separate Maori health authority, etc., should be outlawed, because such ideas are clear breaches of cession of sovereignty, therefore breaches of the treaty. We shouldn't even be contemplating them. You see, the issue of sovereignty is crucially important, and people underestimate Article 1 of the treaty and this aspect of that article. I hope you can see why the issue of sovereignty is of crucial importance. My question is this: how is it that successive governments are treating Maori as though they did not cede sovereignty, appeasing them at every turn? What is happening in our country is that the Maori chief's cession of sovereignty in 1840 is slowly but surely being reversed or nullified or undone, so that in effect the chiefs did not cede sovereignty. Our MPs are acting as though Maori did not cede sovereignty. It's hard to believe, but it's actually happening. All Kiwis need to be sure that Maori ceded sovereignty. Why? Well, because the implications of not knowing or not caring are momentous. If Maori truly ceded sovereignty in 1840, we must rise up and fight to honour the treaty. If Maori truly ceded sovereignty in 1840, we must rise up and fight against any reversal of that decision made by those 540 chiefs. If Maoris truly ceded sovereignty in 1840, we must press Maori activists to honour their elders who signed that treaty. If Maori truly ceded sovereignty in 1840, we must fight to stop what I call the reversalists having their way. At the moment in 2024, the reversalists are triumphing. This is wrong and it's got to be stopped. We must stop this. So let's be sure that Maori ceded sovereignty. We must prove our case with facts, not emotions. Our claim that Maori ceded sovereignty must not and cannot be baseless. We need to know our stuff. We need to have good reasons to believe what we believe. Let me ask you this. If someone asked you personally to prove that Maori ceded sovereignty in 1840, could you do it? How confident would you be? So let's go. Can you prove it that Maori ceded sovereignty? Well, I'm going to give you the tools to be able to do that. There are 9 proofs that Maori ceded sovereignty. The first proof, and there's William Hobson and there's Lord Normanby. William Hobson was instructed by Lord Normanby, Colonial Secretary in London, this is 1840, to pull out of New Zealand if the British did not get sovereignty. The fact that Britain carried on and did not pull out proves beyond doubt, in the minds of the British at least, that Maori ceded sovereignty. If Maori had not ceded sovereignty, the treaty would have been called off by the British and cast into the fire. It would not exist today. The second proof that Maori chiefs ceded sovereignty. The speeches of the chiefs. On the 5th of February 1840, the day before the treaty was signed, the chiefs spent the afternoon making speeches in the tent on the lawn at Waitangi. In these speeches, many chiefs expressed concern about coming under the British and being subject to them, i.e. ceding sovereignty. They did not want to do this. They did not want to cede sovereignty. Thus, their speeches clearly showed that they knew fully what ceding sovereignty meant. On the night of the 5th, these same chiefs retired to Te Marae at Waitangi. And there is Henry Williams. Missionaries Henry Williams and his son Edward went with them to answer questions and clarify the treaty. The next day, the 6th of February 1840 at noon, and into the afternoon, 52 out of 62 chiefs signed that treaty. Given that we know that they understood what ceding sovereignty meant, it's only logical to conclude that by signing, they ceded sovereignty. You can read the full speeches of the chiefs in the description of this video. The third proof that Maori ceded sovereignty, this is a big one, the 1860 Kohimarama Conference. What happened? In 1860, 112 chiefs met for a month to discuss a range of issues, including the treaty. These chiefs, those who had signed the treaty in 1840, unanimously reaffirmed their commitment to the Queen as their sovereign. And on the right-hand side of that slide, you can read it for yourself what was one of the key resolutions of that conference. The fourth proof that Maori ceded sovereignty, the documented evidence from records inside the British Parliament. There is Dr. Bain Atwood, one of the world's greatest historians. He said this: in October 1840, the Colonial Office had welcomed Hobson's 21st May proclamations of British sovereignty throughout New Zealand. It immediately approved and gazetted them, thereby setting the seal of British sovereignty over New Zealand. What was most important in their eyes was that the British sovereignty in New Zealand was now incontrovertible. Bain goes on to say it was an historical fact that the Crown had asserted sovereignty over New Zealand, and that consequently it was incontrovertible that all of New Zealand and all persons inhabiting its territory lay within the dominion of the Crown. Did you get that? All of New Zealand and all persons, including all Maori. Maori activists say today that Maori only gave the British permission to be sovereign over the British citizens. That is a complete bunkum. These notes from inside the British Parliament prove that to be wrong. The British got sovereignty over all New Zealand and all persons inhabiting its territory. There's the reference. The source of Dr. Atwood's quote is from the correspondence between the colony's Attorney General, William Swainson in New Zealand, and Colonial Secretary Lord Stanley in London. The quote is worth repeating. Quote, "It was an historical fact that the Crown had asserted sovereignty over New Zealand, and that consequently it was incontrovertible that all of New Zealand and all persons inhabiting its territory lay within the dominion of the Crown. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines the word incontrovertible as, quote, not open to question, indisputable. The Cambridge Dictionary says controvertible means impossible to doubt because of being obviously true. The Collins Dictionary says this: incontrovertible evidence or facts are absolutely certain and cannot be shown to be wrong. Now, my friends out there in New Zealand, I'm telling you, it doesn't get any clearer than that. We often hear, and we only hear from the activists and what they bleat on about, what they spout forth. We never hear the British perspective. This is the British perspective. From the British perspective, Maori ceded sovereignty. These are 4 proofs out of 9. The first proof, the existence of the treaty. The second proof, the speeches of the chiefs. The third proof, the Koromorama Conference 1860. The fourth proof, the documented evidence from records inside the British Parliament. Now in the next few videos I'm going to go through the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th proofs, so that'll be in the next videos. This takes us all the way back to this road that we're about to go down, either left or right. We're at a fork in a road in this country, and David Seymour's Principles Bill is absolutely crucial at this moment in our history. His Principles Bill brings us as a nation to a fork in the road in our history. In my view, it's the most significant bill to be debated by all New Zealanders since 1840. This bill is going to ask Kiwis whether they want to take a left turn or a right turn at that fork. There's the bus called New Zealand. If David's bill is unsuccessful, we're going to take a left-hand turn. We're already on that left-hand road, but we're just going to go deeper and further into it. Well, what's on that left-hand turn? Tribal rule. That means tribal leaders ruling New Zealand. It means a class society, Maori and the rest. It means one law for Maori and another for everyone else. It means we're going deep into apartheid, separatism and racism. It means we're going to dishonor the treaty. If you want to go down that road, that's what will happen if David's bill is unsuccessful. If David's bill is successful, this bus called New Zealand's going to take a right-hand turn. What are we going to get in our future? We're going to get democracy, the rule of the people. What are we going to get? We're going to get equality, where all are equal. One law for all, a colorblind society. And if we take a right-hand turn, we're going to honor the treaty. So here's my 2 questions. Which of these 2 roads is mandated in the treaty? I'm telling you right now, it's the right-hand turn. Which of these 2 roads honors the treaty? It's the right-hand turn. The left-hand turn dishonors the treaty. So does David Seymour's bill honor the treaty? Let's see. Here are his 3 principles. The New Zealand government has the right to govern all New Zealanders. The New Zealand government will honour all New Zealanders in the chieftainship of their land and all their property. All New Zealanders are equal under the same law with the same rights and duties. In the preamble, those 3 principles are ticked off. They honour the treaty. In Article 1, those 3 principles of David Seymour honour the treaty. David's 3 principles honour the Treaty of Waitangi. The activists are running scared, my friends. That's what's happening. You know what? There's a lot of people with banners and saying honour the treaty, but really those people protesting there, because the chiefs in 1840 ceded sovereignty, these people really who are holding up that banner, what are they doing? They are dishonouring the treaty because they're not respecting the elders, the 540 chiefs who ceded sovereignty in 1840. Really, it's shameful. Well, that's enough for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video. Please share, like, and get these videos out to everyone everywhere, because these are crucial days in the history of our country. And if you haven't started giving out cards, please do so, because we have a limited window to get to all New Zealanders, to try and skill them up, to give them education about the treaty, so that when this bill, David Seymour's bill, comes before us as the people in New Zealand and comes into Parliament, we can have absolutely unbelievable support for that bill, which will force Luxton to change his mind. And that's what we're trying to do. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.